Today we are working Psalm 20. Psalm 20 is frequently used for people in the armed services if they are going into any kind of battle. It's also used to receive a favorable verdict in court. It's used for receiving blessings from on high, and it's also used for protection. Today I'd like to use Psalm 20 to receive an outcome that you desire. So you can just think of something that you're working on. Of course, you want it to be somewhat within your sphere of influence, but just keep it in mind as we're working this psalm and see if you can't speed up the manifestation of something that you're working on. Psalm magic is very simple and easy to work. You take the psalm that you're working and you read it out loud all the way through once without stopping. And then you go back through that same psalm and you consider each verse. And you try to find hidden occult meanings that lie within each verse. And it's by this deep contemplation of those inner meanings that we are taking the magic seeds that already exist within that psalm and planting them into the fertile ground of our deep minds, where they, in a very real way, take root, blossom forth, and then bear fruit after their kind. And that's exactly what we are going to do right now, you and I, with Psalm 20. The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee. Send thee help from the sanctuary and strengthen thee out of Zion. Remember all thy offerings and accept thy burnt sacrifice, Selah. Grant thee according to thine own heart and fulfill all thy counsel. We will rejoice in thy salvation, and in the name of our God we will set up our banners. The Lord fulfill all thy petitions. Now know I that the Lord saveth his anointed. He will hear him from his holy heaven, with the saving strength of his right hand. Some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. For they are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. Save, Lord. Let the King hear us when we call. So, who is the Lord? We have to orient ourselves to the topic of this psalm. The Lord is the infinite source of all that is, the one source, the one substance, the one power in all the universe. There's only one, and that oneness, that unity, cannot be thwarted. It cannot be destroyed. And since that is the one power of the universe, whomever that power is for, nothing can be against. And the Lord is always for you. So it's important that we orient ourselves and we connect and align with this truth when we're working psalm magic so that our success is assured, bringing to mind now that which you desire, that which is your heart's desire that you want to see manifest, and recognizing that it is the will of the infinite that your heart's desire manifest. The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee. So the Lord, this force, hears you anytime you're having trouble. And you can even think of the time of trouble as being when that which you desire is not yet manifest. Time that you doubt that you could ever have this or that this thing could happen for you. That's your time of trouble as well. So if you orient this psalm toward that one objective of yours, you recognize that infinite intelligence is with you even as you're wondering if this is something that you could possibly ever have. And the Lord hears you. It's not that infinite intelligence needs some sort of special ritual or some sort of special language, because infinite intelligence is stupid and can't really understand you unless you do things in a particular way. Infinite intelligence knows you better than you know you. Infinite intelligence knows what you want, what you need, before you recognize it. So infinite intelligence wants you to have this thing. And the only reason why infinite intelligence wouldn't want you to have this thing is if this thing isn't good for you, in which case something even better is on its way. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee. So if you think about who Jacob was in the Bible, Jacob was renamed Israel. And so that means that Jacob was initiated, you could think of. And the old Jacob, which was a Jacob full of mistakes and didn't do things right, didn't always get things right, but Jacob had his heart in the right place. And infinite intelligence renamed Jacob and said, you know what, you are named Israel because we want to exalt you. We want to lift you up, and we recognize you for who you are, not for all of the mistakes you've made. And that's who you are. You're Jacob in that regard. The God of Jacob defends you. That means you don't have to defend yourself. In fact, it's better if you don't defend yourself, because when you defend yourself, you get defensive. And when you get defensive, then you put up blocks to your good. Whereas if you let the Lord defend you, if you let God defend you, then you're free. You're free to receive all the blessings that are here for you. Send thee help from the sanctuary and strengthen thee out of Zion. God is sending you help from the sanctuary. Now, where's the sanctuary? That sanctuary is the meeting place in your mind. And that's where Zion is, Mount Zion. There's a temple there, there's a sanctuary there, and that's where you and God meet. You have to climb up. That's your job. You have to climb up to the top of the hill. You can't expect the infinite to do your part for you, but you also can't expect you to do the infinite's part. You just have to exalt your mind, uplift your consciousness, that's climbing up that hill, to meet this infinite intelligence in that meeting place, in that sanctuary. And infinite intelligence takes care of the rest. You do your part, and God never fails to do God's part. Remember all thy offerings and accept thy burnt sacrifice. Now, we're being instructed here to remember our burnt sacrifice. Now, that's not for us meaning that we have to kill livestock and burn it on an altar. Of course, that's part of an ancient practice in many cultures, not just the ancient Hebrew culture. It was true of the Druids. Look back, you name the ancient cultures, and they had these burnt offerings, these ideas that what you add to the fire, you're going to have blessings returned to you. You always give God the best. You always give God the first fruits, the best things. So think of it more as being, what is your best that you can do? And think of the burning as the burning desire, that burning fire in your heart. What is your best? If you offer your best to God, God underwrites your efforts. But if you don't offer the best, there's not anything to underwrite. You can't just expect the infinite to be your servant. That's not a healthy way to think of infinite intelligence, this source of all your life. I'm going to just sit here and do nothing, but I expect you to fix this for me and do this for me, and I want you to do stuff for me. That doesn't sound right, does it? So you have to do your best, and the infinite will underwrite that and give you back exponentially more than what you put into something. So those are your burnt offerings. Those are your burnt sacrifices. And then it says Selah, which means just sit and think about that. Sit and think about remembering your offerings. Remember your burnt sacrifice. What is my best? What is the best I can come up with? What is the best I can do in this situation? I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to do it in earnest. And when I do that, it's not a mathematical equation that makes sense. You'd think if I did A and then B, then C would happen. But instead, you do A and B and you get the entire alphabet back, and then some, plus all the numbers. You get everything back. So it seems like you have to work hard at stuff, but if you work hard in concert with the infinite, what you get back is so much more than anything you could ever come up with on your own. Grant thee according to thine own heart and fulfill all thy counsel. What is your heart's desire? You have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What is the essence of this thing? What is it going to bring me? It's not so much that you just want to satisfy some sort of temporary lust. This thing represents a quality, or maybe multiple qualities. So if what you're asking for is a job, what does that job give you? It gives you financial security. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a great sense of joy that you're doing what you love to do. There's all kinds of essential qualities within this that you need to consider. You can't just give God your shopping list. You have to do your work. And part of your work is asking yourself, why do I want this thing? What's the essence of it? What's the heart of it? We will rejoice in thy salvation, and in the name of our God, we will set up our banners. The Lord fulfill all thy petitions. So let's go backwards. God's going to fulfill all your petitions. not just a little bit, not just the ones that God thinks are good enough for you, but all of them. But we want our petitions to be filled in such a way that it is for our good. Because sometimes if you get the letter of what you ask for, it's not a blessing. It's not a blessing, it's a curse. Because sometimes we really do think we know what's best for us. And if we were stuck with only what we thought was best for us, we might really be in trouble. Infinite intelligence is fulfilling all your petitions, all of them. But that's why it's important for you to get to the essence of what you want in those petitions rather than the form, because sometimes the form isn't exactly what you think it is. We will rejoice in thy salvation. So the salvation is the solving of the problem or the manifestation of this thing. In the name of our God, we will set up our banners. Think about those banners that you're going to be setting up as preparing for the victory before the victory has happened, preparing for the manifestation before the manifestation occurs, preparing for the success. So let's say that you're asking for a new home. Maybe you might go and start shopping for furniture, or maybe if you're asking for a new job at a particular type of place, you might go shopping and start looking at least and trying on some business attire for this new position, that kind of thing. That's setting up your banners. Now know I that the Lord saveth his anointed. You are the anointed. That's who you are. You're already anointed. You don't have to go through some sort of special ceremony or have anybody of this world anoint you with oil. The infinite anointed you at your creation. You are an extension of infinite intelligence. That's how intimately joined you are. It's not like God threw you out somewhere on some deserted island and hope that you did okay. You still are connected. You are an expression of and an extension of the infinite. And you need to consider that and see yourself as that rather than as the separated ego that you've come to believe that you are. Because that's how God saves, because that's how you understand that you are anointed already. You don't have to do anything about that. You don't have to create being anointed. He will hear him from his holy heaven. That's where you reside. You reside in the holy heaven with the infinite. He's hearing you from that, not because you're so far away, but because you're right there, having a dream that you're far away, perhaps, with the saving strength of his right hand, again with the defense. The right hand in the Psalms is always the warrior hand. That's the hand that wields the sword. And so since the infinite is already protecting you and defending you and providing for you, you don't need to be defensive. You don't need to protect yourself like that. You turn to the infinite to do it for you, because that's what it's there to do. That's its function, is to not only give you life, but to sustain your life, to protect you, to provide for you, to be this all-loving parent, or para-parents is how many of us view the infinite, as a mother, father, God, goddess. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. Horses and chariots are modes of transportation from the ancient times. So to get from where we are to where we want to be, you don't need to trust in any kind of worldly transportation system. You don't need a special car. You don't need a special bus. You don't need a special anything. You need the infinite. You need the name of the Lord, our God. Now, the name is the nature. So if you sit and contemplate the qualities or the nature of the infinite, then that is the vehicle through which you are transported from where you are to where you want to be. You can be transported right into the manifestation of your desire by sitting and contemplating the qualities of the divine. And that's the way to speed up the progress. And you can even be very specific. Let's say that you had the need for healing. You needed healing of your body. You'd start thinking about the name of God that deals with health. That might be infinite life. Life is a wonderful way to heal your body, is by considering life, considering what life is and how you are alive. And the principle of life itself is an extension of who you are. And your soul will live forever and ever just because it's eternal. And your body can thus be a reflection of your soul. It can be a reflection of that principle of life if you allow it to. So those kinds of things, thinking about contemplating the so-called names of God, meaning the qualities of God, especially the ones that might address whatever this thing is that you're wanting to manifest. That is much more important than what do I do to get this or what do I do to get that. That's trusting in horses and chariots. You want to trust in the name of God. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. So the people that trust in the horses and chariots are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. The reason why they fall is because they're putting their faith in temporal things. They're putting their faith in everything other than where the power lies. If you start putting your faith in your car, you start putting your faith in your money, you start putting your faith in your house, in your relationship, in your body, in any of these things in the world that are ultimately going to die, because this world is a world of death, then you will fall because you're putting your faith in things that don't last. But if you put your faith in the name of God, then you are contemplating infinite and eternal principles that do sustain you and do allow you to reorient your perspective into that which is eternal rather than to that which is temporal. So that way you don't fall because you're not putting your faith in something that is going to die. If you put all your faith in something that's going to die, you're eventually going to be disappointed. When you think about this world of mortality here and you realize none of it will last, that's comforting if you think about it in the right way. For one thing, if you've got a problem, then you know that's going to die because everything dies here. So at least that there's one comfort in that. But there's also comfort in knowing I don't have to stress out about this world because it's all just going to go away anyway. So I can just enjoy it for what it is, but I'm not part of it. Ultimately, I'm part of the infinite that exists beyond everything in this world. And that's how you are risen and stand upright, by realizing that you do live in a temporal world, but you're not temporal. You do have a body that's going to die, but you're not a body. You do have relationships that are not going to last forever in the form that they are in, but that's okay because you're not that relationship. And the true relationship that you have with that person can't die anyway because it's beyond personalities, it's beyond circumstances, and it's beyond bodies. Save, Lord. Let the King hear us when we call. All right, so the King in this sense is not the infinite. The King is that part of the world we always look to. We're going to look to the bank because they're going to loan you money. You might look to an employer because they're going to give you a job. You might look to a person to fall in love with them. You're going to look to a doctor because maybe the doctor's going to heal you. So all of those things are channels. Those are the kings of this world. They are all channels for your good, but they're not the source. So when we say, save, Lord, let the King hear us when we call, that means that through these channels, infinite intelligence does its work. But we recognize that the source of these things is not the channels. The source of these things is the infinite. And so we don't get upset when a channel dries up or when a channel changes. We understand that the channel is just the channel. And so those are the kings of this earth. And so we're not going to be afraid if the kings of this earth rise and fall, because those are just channels through which the infinite brings us our good. And the infinite is constant and forever. And that's where we put our faith. And that's why we can have utter faith that by working this psalm, our desires are met, our needs are met. And whatever this thing is that we brought to the psalm, we can be assured that it is on its way in the most perfect form possible. So you just keep coming back to this psalm every day until you get a sense that what you've done, what spell you're casting, is cast. And you get that sense by how you feel. So when you get the sense of peace and certainty, it's like a click, then you know it's done. And you don't have to cast anymore. You can just move on to something else. It's just a matter of time. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.